Three, two, one.
It's not your fault. I know. No. It's not your fault. I know. No, you don't. It's not your fault. Hmm? I know. It's not your fault. All right. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me, Sean. Not you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Fuck them. Okay. That's all. It's not your fault that you didn't listen to this episode of Campy Cast sooner. Hi, everybody. We're
Hello.
back.
Great
I
scene
was a little
right
limited
there.
to the
Hello.
quotes this time because I didn't have as much. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're back again. Big gap after our big
Yeah, I
2023
know we took a
episode. I
bit of a
hope those.
break. I mean, you can't say
Uh,
it, you blame us for it because, like,
yeah, that was a
you
pretty
try
big one.
recording a 4-hour episode.
Yeah, exactly. That was a
Yeah,
crazy recording session. I didn't even realize we did it that long until partway through.
same.
But yeah, that was fun. Hope y'all also enjoyed our special April Fool's episode a while
Yeah,
back.
that
I
little
I
skit
think
thing
I
we
think it was
did.
a pretty fun
Not
idea.
even we
It was
did,
like
but
we were the replacement host. It was funny.
yeah.
But yeah, we're back now. Got a consistent schedule for a bit. And this time coming back from our big break, we
We
got
got a
a
new
brand
guest.
new
Been a while
guest.
since we gotten
We
like a
got
brand new
Matty
guest,
B
but
here
yeah,
today.
Matty
Uh,
B. Uh,
Hey, it's Matty B, Matt B, whichever you want to call me. I don't really care either way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to have you here, Always nice to get some new guests, new faces every now and again to
Mhm.
mix things up.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
Mhm.
we have less movies to cover today. I know we've been doing a lot of like big episodes as of late in terms of like what movies we're kind of talking about, like big franchises, but now we just got two different recommendations that our guests kind of suggested today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
We can't do the big episodes all the time.
exactly, or else they
But
wouldn't even really be
you
big
know,
episodes if you really think about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, I guess before we get into that, I guess we did miss some news. We've been gone for like a couple weeks. We did miss some small news, mainly just kind of announcements for films, which I know we don't always cover, but I feel like since there were like a batch of them because CinemaCon happened recently, and man, I can't believe that means it's been like a year since that Leprechaun episode when we talked about it
oh
back
shit,
then.
really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it is because that was all last April, man.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's been a
I
while.
remember that two-part, all those scheduling conflicts, all the weird gaps in time, all the terrible stories of the Leprechaun Part 1 record session. And two, there was that fucking like giant gap in the middle. We had to wait for Silver to get back from work. That was funny. But yeah, I guess it happened again.
Yeah.
What did they announce, Anthony? I forget.
They did announce like
Been like a couple weeks.
quite a bit of stuff. I know that there's like it's quite a bit of stuff. I mean, they didn't like announce. They did just kind of like show a lot of different things. There were like that's kind of a better way to put it, but there was like they dropped the Joker 2 trailer, which
Oh
you
yeah, I
know,
guess they did.
I
Mhm.
agree with a lot of people in terms of like, Joker ends with like in a way, I'm not sure about the idea of making a sequel. And then the trailer, and what do you guys think of that trailer for the if you guys watched it, thought it was what do you think
I
of
didn't
it?
watch it.
Oh, you did.
I don't know.
You did. I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, I also didn't watch it.
Well, damn.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess I didn't say it as a priority, but I don't know. I
No,
thought
I,
it
I
looked
just feel like
interesting.
that original Joker I feel like the novelty of that movie is it works better as a standalone
Yeah, that's kind of what makes it
film. Like it's a
unique from
good,
other comic book
mhm,
movies nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
But
especially with how it ends.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
Yeah,
they'll
see,
do
I
with
remember
this,
the
but
yeah. No, I just remember the whole appeal when Joker came out. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion around it. I think a lot of the discourse around Joker is annoying. That's like
Mhm.
a discussion for another day. But I remember a lot of the people I remember at the time they were like, "Oh, it's nice to have something disconnected from a bigger universe." Because at the time, the DC universe was just slowly falling apart a little more. Things weren't going great. So it's like, "Oh, it's nice we can have a movie just that is tackling these characters, but separate from that whole big thing. And now it's like, okay, if you're making a sequel, that doesn't. It's still technically disconnected, but just actually making it like an ongoing story. I felt
Yeah.
it kind of just against a lot of what I think people liked and thought was interesting about the original Joker. But I don't know. Trailer looked kind of stupid from what I heard about it, but
It's like,
seems
I
interesting
don't
at the
know.
very
It's
least.
just
You got all these
some
songs
of it looks like
working.
interesting, but like after watching it, I'm all like, man, do we need this? That's just my question. But regardless, I don't know. You guys are probably not missing that much from the trailer anyway, because it doesn't even really give
I
away that
don't
much
think
about
so.
the actual plot. It just kind
Mm.
of shows off and introduces certain elements of the movie, which, to be honest, is what a good trailer should do. Like way too many movies nowadays just give there's just a lot of shit given away in the trailer, especially with
Yeah,
superhero movies nowadays. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
that's
get
like
you.
one of the things I could probably appreciate about it. Uh, yeah, there
Yeah, I
was
get.
like they also was like there's a lot of different like announcements here and there kind of showing footage of just different movies now that I think about it. That was kind of the main thing. I feel like Joker 2 was just kind of the main drop from this though. Everything else is just kind of like footage of other movies that some I'm pretty interested in. I remember they showed like very weird. They showed like half of Inside Out 2, and I feel like it's almost like too much to show of a movie. Like
Yeah, no, I remember that. They said that people got to see the fucking first act or something or whatever, and then they cut it off.
yeah, it's like
Which is
it's
weird because at
weird.
that point, I feel like they should have just showed a shorter preview clip because I can't.
And
It seems
max
like a
just
weird
showed them
experience
like
getting to
10
see
minutes
the
if I'm being
first.
honest.
Yeah, exactly. That just seems weird to be like, oh, you get to see the first act right when the story kicks off, and then they're
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of
no, like
stupid.
I don't know. Seems
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of weird. The movie
apparently
looks
they.
ass, by the way,
Yeah,
but
apparently
we'll
they
see.
showed
Um,
like high school girls like test footage of the or I don't know if it's like test footage or
Oh
the
yeah.
full movie and like have them give notes
oh.
on it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
apparently I
I heard
guess they
about
still
that. Yeah.
think that boredom is an emotion that only happens when you're a teenager,
Oh
even
yeah.
though younger
Yeah.
people are
It's so weird
like
this conceptually.
more likely to be bored. Like I know from personal
Yeah, yeah. It's
experience.
just so
Mm.
Yeah.
weird because every new emotion they're introducing is like built off things that already exist. So it just kind of seems like it just seems like unnecessary for like I get the sequel hook. Oh, add more emotions as time goes on, but it's like I don't know, most of the ones that were mentioned, they're like yeah, they're like built off things that already exist. So it's I don't
Already
know.
emotion
It
somewhere
just
in the
seems kind of
first movie
redundant.
already.
But
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
also like
Oh,
I don't know, they just kind of just gave a lot of stuff. Like I guess I might as well bring this up because we did talk about every SpongeBob movie, and I don't know how long we're gonna do it because they're milking the franchise to death. But they did announce a new one. I mean, it was announced a while ago, but they kind of gave
yeah,
us
it
some more
is.
information on it. And one of them specifically is for some reason the director implied that the movie was gonna have nudity, and I feel like that is not only
Oh yeah, he
like
did mention that.
it's like the way
Uh,
he said that. Like, why would
Which
you
I
just
mean,
announce that?
to be, to be fair, it's not
yeah,
like that's out of the ordinary for
Oh
SpongeBob.
yeah,
Like they've
definitely.
had like
They've
yeah,
done
butt
it
shots
multiple
before,
times,
even in the
multiple
first
times.
movie.
he
Yeah.
always is.
I just think it's
Yeah,
weird for a
exactly.
director to specify that, especially like I don't know, it's almost like he's trying to make a big deal out of it. Like we know all
Hmm.
we've seen this franchise do that, you
It
know?
just seemed like a yeah odd thing to specify, but
Mm-hmm.
oh well. I
Uh
had
Like
a
yeah, we're gonna include nudity.
like
Like yeah, I've seen a cartoon from the '90s and early 2000s. You're not really. I don't know what
yeah.
you're planning to accomplish
Yeah, sorry man, you're not breaking
yeah,
by
news around
announcing
here
this.
exactly.
exactly. Is it like a SpongeBob episode where the joke is he's in a commercial for like a sponge, and the joke is it's supposed to be like a porno actor, so it's like you know is it
Yeah,
really ground?
that's a classic joke right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of this is
I
really
think
just footage if I'm thinking about it.
yeah,
I guess they did like entirely one of the main announcements that came in nine. They actually fully announced Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which hyped for that once
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Won't talk more about it till it comes out though, which yeah, but hyped for what they
Yeah.
do with that.
Mm.
Also, they
I'm sure
announced.
it'll be probably also as dumb, but it'll probably be fun.
I feel
So
like it
we'll
might be
see where it
slightly better
goes from there.
based off of I don't know, like I don't know, based off like I think they're gonna attempt to improve from the first film, and I'm pretty sure like I trust the creator of FNAF with that since he like knows how to learn from criticisms. That's like the main reason the franchise was
Yeah,
made in the first place. So yeah, I still don't
yeah,
think it'll be very good though,
exactly.
Mm.
but I think it'll be a fun time, as a good old FNAF fan.
Yeah, so
Mm.
I haven't seen that first FNAF movie. I have no real attachment to the franchise, but I do remember when it first started becoming popular, and like of course there were all those like theory videos talking about the lore.
Yeah.
And so I it started gaining popularity like 2014, 2015,
Mm.
around that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
And so I work at a high
yeah.
school, and so with the new movie having come out and like preparation for it, I would see students like going back and playing the original game, and I felt like I'd be back in 2014 again.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
felt
funny. I
like
think
a
that
lot
they
of
had it planned since like however long ago, but they just took
Yeah,
so
I
long
think
with
that's why I
everything.
might have enjoyed it as
Um,
much because it was like waiting so long for it that just finally
Mm.
seeing it was just so cool to me, to my 2014 self.
mhm.
So, yeah, anyways, yeah, I've talked enough about that. Yeah, I can't believe they also this wasn't at CinemaCon. I guess I have like two things I could bring up before we get into the movies, I guess. Two small like big things. One of them was on we finally got who's playing Shadow in the Sonic movie, and we talk about Sonic way too much
Oh
on this
yeah, we did.
podcast, even though we've only talked about
Mm.
one of the games. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
it's Keanu.
Keanu Reeves, yeah, that's sick. That's a
Well,
great choice, by the way. I'm so happy. Like that was like
mm,
everyone was campaigning for that. Happy that paid off. I know some people wanted Hayden Christensen, and that would be amazing as well. But you know,
Could have worked.
mm.
it'll work either way.
Eh. I don't
It's
know.
gonna be cool.
Ideally, I would have wanted like just an actual voice actor like we got with Tails, but I give the Sonic
Yeah,
movies
like
credit. Unlike Mario and a lot of animated stuff casting where they just like they replace veteran voice actors like a random celebrity. They technically do that, but I think all the picks, like at least so far, like actually fit the characters a lot. Like Idris Elba as Knuckles, that was really
That's
I think a
great.
really good
Yeah.
choice.
mm.
Then I don't know how well Keanu will do, but that's like it doesn't seem like entirely just like a random pick. Like I
Yeah.
assume he
Also,
could
I
fit
think
the
the fans
character,
Mm.
were
and
campaigning for that, so that
we'll
might be a
see.
huge reason that pushed them
Mm.
to make that decision.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
On
mean,
a
John Wick's
Reddit, maybe.
dog is essentially Maria.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What do you think about it?
That's sick.
That's true, actually. Oh my god.
Anyways,
Oh.
yeah, I guess one last thing. I don't know. I don't have a huge attachment to this director, but I knew some people were excited for this. Just wanted to see if you guys were interested in it. What did you think about the new Quentin Tarantino movie being canceled?
Um, I think it's an interesting choice that he went with that because Quentin's been saying this for like a while, where he's like, I forget exactly the reason. I think it's just like to not like to keep like some sense of like not burning himself out or going too long. I think he like it was like exactly 10 movies. I think and he counts Kill Bill as one long movie, so he's like there's like an asterisk on that. But he's been going exactly 10, which. I think it's weird. He had this whole project lined up for a bunch of months, but he's like, no, I gotta do exactly 10. Then he's like blanking out on this so he can like go do something else. I sort of respect the commitment, but also in a way, it's just kind of. I think it's weird the way he's imposing this because I feel like it's just like negatively affecting the way he's looking at stuff a lot. I don't know. The point is, I think it's a little weird, but I sort of respect the commitment to it. The movie
Yeah.
critic movie did sound interesting though, so it's kind of a shame
It's
that's
gonna
Mm.
not
start Brad Pitt, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
happening now. But
Yeah,
oh
so
well.
he's just done directing movies. It's not just the project. The movie
Yeah.
critic he's not
No, no,
doing.
no. He's like
Oh
the
wait,
point
no,
is
no.
he has one movie left. That's the
Okay.
idea,
Yeah, I think he was
and
gonna
it was
make
gonna be
that,
this,
but
but
then
then
like changed
because
his mind.
yeah, yeah, he
Hmm.
stopped doing that, and now he's maybe gonna do something else for it.
Very intrigued with what this
Which
guy's gonna do next. I need
Yeah.
to see more of his
it,
movies. I've
it,
only seen the
it,
Kill
like
Bill duology a while back. And they're
Mm.
great movies, but yeah.
Yeah, there were talks about the possibility of a Kill Bill
That's stupid.
3.
I don't know why. The
Yeah.
title was fulfilled, so what's the
Hmm.
point?
Yeah, the thing about the
Exactly.
Kill Bill movie is it's not necessarily like one movie and then a sequel. It's more like one
Nothing
movie
is
split
missing
into two
from the
halves.
story. Yeah, nothing's
Yeah,
Mhm.
missing
exactly. That
here.
was the whole thing.
Yeah, it could
I
have
think
been
he
a whole
wanted it to
movie. He
be
just
like the
didn't feel
big
like making the
4 hour
movie.
thing at
Yeah, it's
first, but
one
the story.
story just told through two movies.
Yeah, and the story's finished, so what's the
Exactly.
point?
So I feel like for a third movie, you have to make up a whole new story. At that point, it just feels like an add-on.
Exactly.
Feels like DLC at that point.
But the whole thing, Kill Bill's a very simple story, really. Like it's in the title practically. She goes to get
Mhm.
revenge on him. He does, and then it's over. You know, you don't
Yeah,
need much more than that, really.
Mhm.
exactly.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's like mainly it. There's like other small like
um,
announcements, but I feel like those are the main ones I feel like were talked about and like kind of like
Smiling
related to the
Friends season
podcast.
2 got a trailer.
That's
That
cool.
was pretty
It
cool.
did. I am so excited for
Yeah,
that.
I can't wait for that.
Oh, you know me too. It's gonna be so awesome. I
Mhm.
loved all the little
Who knows?
little
Maybe we'll talk
preview
about it
clips and
more
everything.
one
It was
day.
so
Wink,
I
fun.
noticed.
wink.
What was that again?
Yeah.
Just kind of said, maybe
Go
we'll
on.
talk about that more one day. Maybe. Who
Ah,
knows?
I think it's because maybe an episode on Smiling Friends
Yeah.
eventually.
We'll
Wink,
probably
wink,
do an
nudge,
mhm.
nudge.
episode. I
Wink,
should have
wink,
just
nudge.
said that. Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
yeah. Mhm.
Anyways, yeah. Go on, Matt.
Are we going on to the movies I
Oh, I thought you
recommended,
had
or?
something else to say about the thing. All right.
Oh no, I do have something to add about the Smiling French trailer. I I don't know if it was just his animation style or they actually got him for it, but it kind of looked like a Joel Haver kind of character.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Mhm.
I think it's him, and that's
Mhm.
awesome. Honestly, if they got him for it because the whole thing of Smiling Friends is so cool to me that like it's one of the rare instances of like an internet animator actually getting to move on to do that bigger
Yeah.
project on something like Adult Swim. So it's cool that like for a guest people, there's like stuff like that, especially since
Mhm.
Michael and Zach they seem like they'd actually be interested in that type of thing. And I love Joel Haver; he's really
Yeah.
cool guy. So it's neat. That whole trailer is very funny. I'm very excited for next month when
Hmm.
everything all drops. But
Anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
goodbye,
I
Mr.
think that's
Project.
it. How about we get into the movies today? Which one do you guys want to start with first? We have two. Um,
Sure.
'Cause I really don't care.
I have no preference.
All right. I guess we could just go in release date order. How about we start with Good Will Hunting? Now, Matt, you recommended two of these movies, two
Hmm.
movies, and this is one of them. You kind of want to talk about this? Why'd you recommend it to us?
Yeah.
Why don't you
So
introduce the film?
hmm?
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. So Goodwill Hunting. Um, for that one, it's just one of my all-time favorites. It's a movie that I remember just putting on one day. Just not. I've always heard like great things about it. Like, and of course, I really like Robin Williams and Matt Damon. Like, I never seen anything else from Gus Van Sant,
Same.
he's directed some other like pretty beloved movies.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and
He
so
directed Psycho '98. Crazy.
yeah, so like I said, very very beloved movies. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've not seen any other films from him. I know you, Brian, have seen one of the Psycho film, like you said, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was interested in this movie. I've had it on my watch list for a number of years now, um, and I have been like genuinely interested in it. I do
Mhm.
like these seem like great actors. They have like
Yeah.
great moments. They're truly iconic, and I was interested in the movie. It looked like something. It looked like there was a charm to it that I'd be interested in, and I actually really loved it. I thought I was definitely won over by it. I was actually emotionally moved by it quite a bit, and I'm really happy I watched it. So, what did you guys think of this?
I think this was a great ass movie. I
Yeah.
probably yeah, I think like with you, it's one of those watch list limbo movies where like I'd have it on there, I'd want to watch it, but I never like think
Hmm.
actively to it. It's like I was like I'll watch it eventually, but
Yeah,
then
it's one
never
of
get the
those
time to be.
movies where I have a lot of on my watch list. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
Mhm.
definitely. But no, It's a very like simple story, but the way it's told and what it leaves you to like chew on thematically, I think is really,
Yeah,
really
Mhm.
interesting.
I
So yeah,
really love how
great.
this movie is like paced and like just put together because you're like you said, it's a very simple story. It follows this Matt Damon playing the titular Will Hunting. He's kind of just like he's got like real potential and knowledge within him, but he doesn't use it like to accomplish much in life and kind of just leaves a very simple life where he gets into mischief with his gang and whatnot, his friends, and then he just kind of like goofs around there. And this leads to him doing like multiple crimes, and then he's eventually forced to take therapy. And then for that, we see like a full breakdown of his character a bit more over the course of the movie, and we see like kind of a nice parallel relationship between him and Robin Williams' character Sean. And yeah, it works really well.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, it's a simple story. It's also kind of familiar one. Like it's essentially about this almost like this tough street kid who has a like you said has a very brilliant mind, and then but he's afraid of letting people in. He's afraid of being vulnerable, and so over the course of the movie, he's constantly meeting with people who challenge him, who challenge his points of view and his perspectives. Sometimes in a good and healthy way, like with the therapist played by Robin Williams and by his girlfriend Skylar, and also some others in negative ways, like the college professor who's constantly trying to like push him to get these like high ranking jobs and he's doing
Yeah.
work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all trying to kind of like lead him down a path where he's like
Mm,
accomplishing something in the world. And
yeah.
yeah, it works really well over the course of the movie. It's 2 hours, and it never feels like it's really wasting time. It's always showing like aspects of his life and really like giving us the full story and pretty much everything we need to know about his character. And for that, it just leads to all these emotions all having such beautiful payoff. There's a lot of different standout scenes where this theme relating to his character is definitely strengthened really well.
Mm,
Mhm.
Yeah, like we get a lot of the scenes that really stand out to me are the scenes with the two main characters, you know, the ones with Sean and Will, you know, like the scene when they're
mm.
just on the bench and Son is just kind of like, you know, talking, just having a nice little conversation with him and kind of just trying to show that he understands him in some way, trying to become like
It's
a
when he's
good
having like the
therapist.
monologue on the bench.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's a great scene. A lot of great
Yeah,
scenes
what
like
I
that in the
like
movie.
about that in particular is he's essentially so if you remember the scene earlier in the bar when they're when that one Harvard guy with the ponytail, he's like bullying Ben Affleck, and then Will
Yeah,
steps in and he's like, "Oh, you're just quoting all these books you
just
read recently."
absolutely destroys him. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and then because so later Sean played the therapist, he essentially calls Will out on the same thing. Like he
Mm,
says, like, you could describe art to me, but if I asked you about art, you could give me your favorite paintings, but you could probably never tell me what it's like to be in the Sistine Chapel.
yeah. There's a lot of yeah, there's like a lot of stuff like that, you know, he's almost kind of being like hypocritical in that way and doesn't really fully
Hmm.
grasp and understand who he is in that way and doesn't really know what to do with his life regardless of that. It's just kind of
Hmm.
like moving on, not really thinking much about it and not showing him much care and it's just solely because of like him just kind of building this wall around him in some way, you know? Like he
Yeah, and he's a
tries
very oh sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. Go
Here's-
on.
like, yeah, he's a very defensive character too. Like like that very first scene with them together, like he's walking around the room, he's looking for things that he can essentially use as ammo essentially to get under his skin.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I love the little exchange they have. It's like they talk about working out and he says, "Oh, how much do you bench?" And then Robert Williams like 285, how much you bench? And then he immediately just stops and then immediately moves on to something else. He's like, "Oh, you paint?"
Hmm. Yeah, there's like a lot of great scenes, and it really gets, and it's like the performances really add to them, you know. It's like incredibly convincing, and I feel like the emotions, will never would never hit as hard if it wasn't for just how committed and well done the performances are, and really
Mm.
portraying these characters and making them feel like real people. And it really adds to this emotional struggle the main character is going through. And that's what makes this movie like very powerful in the highs it's capable of reaching as a result. So yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I just appreciated a lot about what they were trying to do with it.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, you can tell it was a yeah, it's definitely a project that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were very passionate about because they wrote the screenplay and they of course star in it. And it's one of the few times I feel like I can tolerate Ben Affleck in something
mm,
because in most other things I've seen him in, he's just really annoying. Particularly like Geely or like Surviving Christmas, like the characters he plays in those movies really aren't that different to the to Chucky and Good Will Hunting. But the difference here is he's kept as a supporting role.
yeah. I didn't even really notice it was him, like throughout most of the
Mhm.
runtime. It was like only when he gets like this one integral scene near the third act where like,
Yeah.
oh, that's Ben Affleck. Oh, because like
Yeah,
he's younger, so yeah.
yeah. Is it the scene where it's like you don't owe it to yourself, you owe it to me?
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that scene, by the way. It
yeah. I
shows that
love that because it's
despite uh
is what happens. Yeah.
it's like it shows that despite him kind of like, being despite like him just trying to like despite them like guiding him in multiple ways and kind of like being a huge reason for like helping him stick through this like mindset in his life, they also like want the best for him and just show genuine care for him, and they
Mhm.
really just like think they're given he's like given all these opportunities, and like everyone else, they're just kind of forced into this way of life where he could easily be reaching for something better, but Matt's always like scared of failure. I mean, Will, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and like Chucky seems like the one guy, like he seems like the last person you would expect to give this sort of speech, because
Yeah.
with like Sean, with Skylar, like you understand that like they're new people he's meeting. They obviously come from relatively different walks of life. They want what's best for him, and
Hmm.
so up until that point, it kind of seemed like he was like Chucky was kind of enabling his behavior, Will's
Yeah.
behavior, and so
Supporting it, yeah.
it always seems like he wasn't challenging him in the way they were, but now in this moment he is. And so it's like, okay, now Will has like nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Like he has to confront these things.
Hmm. Yeah. Brian, you've been a bit silent over there. Do you have much like just to add at the moment based off of what we're talking about with the film?
No, no, I'm just kind of well, I've been kind of listening because I know Matt, you're like really passionate about
Mm,
this one, so I've just been kind of letting it go off. But I 100% I agree with everything you guys been saying. It's funny you guys mentioned Ben Affleck and how he's usually not good and shit. My only perspective for him outside of this movie is fucking Snyderverse DC shit. So
Same.
oh,
that's
nice.
certainly a bit of a jump. But yeah,
Yeah. I think
performance wise, everything is just really
Mm,
really good in this. Especially I think Robin Williams, he obviously steals the
yeah.
show
oh,
a
he's
bit
amazing
with
in
this.
this.
Like
Yeah.
that,
Mm,
if that like central performance was not as good, I don't think that like general emotional core between him and Will would not be like nearly as like powerful or as strong as it really is. But no, yeah, it is really really good. It's like a bit dialed back and
Yeah.
because yeah,
I think
actually compared to
mm,
like a lot of his. Sorry, go on.
I think the presence of Robin Williams, he just really evokes this feeling of just like comfort and like happiness and whatnot, which is
Mhm.
really good when he's like being this supportive figure to Will. So I feel like that I do definitely agree with you when you said that this role as a result would just not be the same if he wasn't playing it. So that is definitely
Yeah.
like that is
Mm.
definitely something that really adds to this movie in that way.
Yeah. That core friendship is like really really good because obviously a big part of it is his character Sean. He's helping out Will a lot because he's like, they mentioned he doesn't really have any sort of like father figure or like figure in his life that tells him that he's gonna be okay, or like is able to like navigate through these sort of settings. And they mentioned too that Sean, he's talking more about his personal life. He talks about his dead wife and how he never like from there he never really had to have a proper family. So from there, Will kind of fulfills the sort of like son role in his life, and it's just like it's really nice how it's a sort of mutual thing where just by existing and talking through their issues, they're both able to help each other a lot through that, and that leads up to the near the ending of the movie, that part I quoted up the top, probably the most iconic bit for
Mm.
this movie, where he
Great
goes
scene.
to him and just tells him it's not your fault. He keeps repeating that, repeat it over and over. And I think it's a really powerful scene because sometimes I think it shows how in life sometimes the simplest like phrases and like just words you could just being told something so simple like that, that's what ends up getting to Will as he like kind of breaks down and really takes it in, and he has this like big emotional blow up that's like one of the most
Mm.
biggest scenes in the movie, but really does show that like throughout his life he has to like internalize that it's like for the ways he like acts out and the way he's treated by other people and like the therapy and his like higher places in the movie, it's he just keeps having to like tell himself that like he to like sort of blame himself for the whole thing, just being told by one person that he's not at fault for this and he's allowed to just like feel like bad about it. Just that like simple thing. It's just so powerful the
Yeah,
way that
what
like
makes him
gets to
such a
him and that.
powerful figure and just a very likable character in that way is he's like the only character in this movie who's like perfectly able to like understand the root of his issues, and he doesn't like force
Exactly,
him
exactly.
to kind of just like change and go down a different path. Rather, he like makes it gradually happen over time, while people like the professor at the university is kind of trying to rush him a bit more, which leads to the great argument scene where the scene that you mentioned is like before, you know. It makes it
Mm.
all
Yeah.
just work really well in that way as a result.
Yeah, it's a great Williams performance there when he's just like standing up for him, just kind of explaining their whole perspective because he's the only one who really gets Will on that deeper level and is able to like explain that to other people. It's just such a good bit there. That like final like 20 or so minutes is like my favorite stuff in the
Mm.
Yeah,
movie.
that's
Definitely
what
how it
really
just
started
builds
to
off
run
all that's been
win me over
established.
with this movie,
Yeah.
because it all like all the buildup that's been happening beforehand, seeing so many glimpses of Will's life, like how he forms a relationship with someone, but then it just doesn't really like end up going. He doesn't want it to really go anywhere because he's worried that it's gonna lead to him just getting his heart broken, and it's gonna like ruin things between them. So he's like having like trouble committing to it in that way because he's just like kind of scared and always like paranoid. Like he focuses like I said, he focuses so much on like his future, like him potentially failing when it comes to that, like it dictates so many of his decisions when it comes to like accepting opportunities and keeping these type of relationships. And I think that's a very strong character arc that's incredibly well paced and well written, and as a result just leads to a really good movie.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I guess another
Um,
just a just another great scene that I really like. I love this scene where it's one of like I feel like the first moments where it feels like Will and Sean are really connecting is the scene where like they're kind of just talking about their relationships and whatnot, and then Sean brings up the day he met his wife, and then they kind of like just kind of talk about the good old baseball game that day and whatnot, and how that like how he doesn't regret the any of the decisions he made like that day, like the decision of missing out on the game for the sake of spending time uh if the person who will eventually become his wife. That's a great
Mm.
moment, and it really shows a nice setup for them forming a stronger relationship later on in the movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like how that scene plays out. I like how he tells that story. How before he even gets to his wife, like he's just talking about that World Series game because that was a real game. It was the sixth game of the World Series between the Reds and the Red Sox, and that was a big deal for Boston. Now, I did not grow up in Boston in 1975, but I have to imagine that was a pretty big deal for them. Even though I think the Reds ended up winning the World Series 4 games to 3, but through that game they were able to tie it up, and it was a huge deal. It was like bottom of the 12th. They went to 12 innings, and he just
Mm.
sets the stage. He talks about like how great it was and how everyone was just rushing the field when they hit. Believe it was a grand slam. Like bases were loaded. But yeah, like everyone was rushing the field, and like Will's getting into it too. He's all like he's a lot more animated,
Yeah.
and then it ends with him saying like, "No, I wasn't even there," just to
Mm.
really emphasize just how important it was for him to just meet this woman who, like you said, would eventually become his wife.
Exactly. So it's like he's building up to this moment, and it's like expected that he's going to reveal that like he experienced something so cool, but in
Mm.
reality, the thing he experienced something that was so cool was meeting his future wife. So that's what makes that such a great scene in that way. In terms of like
Mm.
praising all like more of the technical aspects, I love how this movie looks. I love the score a lot.
Mm.
It really enhances
Oh,
the
definitely.
film. You know,
Oh, well shot.
it's all good.
Great.
It's all good. Very well shot. Uh, it's like I said, a very simple movie, but it's all done to evoke very real human emotions, done with such amazingly written and characters in that way. And I appreciate a lot about this movie. And yeah, I would
Mm,
definitely rewatch it again at some
Mm.
point. Uh, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, like so many of my
It
favorite like pieces of media. Sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, no, go on. Go on. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, just saying like so many of my favorite pieces of media are ones that sort of provide like a plethora of emotions. Like obviously this is a drama to deals with a lot of heavy subject matter, but it's also really funny at points. Like pretty much like the jokes people tell in the
Yeah.
movie. Like I especially love that airplane one.
Yeah. I also
Mm.
like all the some of the interactions between just Will and some of his gang friends. Like what was his name?
Mm.
One of him was like I think it was supposed to be like related to it's like the I don't know Morgan was his name. I'm pretty sure it was like all the interactions between them were pretty funny. You know, pretty nice
Mm.
banter between all of them. You know, like like there's this scene where one of them buys a sandwich and this guy's like threatening to put him on a payroll just to give him the damn sandwich and then he just ends up throwing it at them. It's just like it's very real yet funny banter between
Mm.
friends, which I feel like just it
The
accompanies the two great aspects of this movie very well and also giving birth to some fun scenarios between them, you know? I feel like that's when a lot of
the
the good humor originates there.
hmm,
Yeah, because
yeah.
these are
The
really
bar scene near the beginning is really good too. If a lot of that too, I noticed the
Yeah,
dialogue and
that
that
was
like
mm.
yeah, like I
beginning
said, the
stuff is
scene
really
with
fun.
yeah, the scene where Will just like I said, just absolutely tears into this guy and just calls him a fraud is like, you know, pretty funny, even
Yeah.
though it kind of comes back to haunt him later in terms of just his view of life being no different from that guy's, which is sad, but in the moment that scene is funny, I'd
Yeah,
say.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
yeah, because these are really fun characters that you like being around them, and so it makes it makes the heavy moments hit so much harder.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot to love about this movie.
Yeah.
I can't really see if I can understand someone hating it. Like it's one of those movies in my mind, you
Yeah.
know? There's just like this very great feeling to it where I feel like
Mm.
anyone could get something out of it, you know? Um I don't know, this might
Mhm.
be a personal thing, but if I had like this might change if I ever rewatch it. This is like I don't know. I remember just like, you know what? I don't know. I don't even I was gonna say that I felt like some moments in the movie kind of like dragged a bit for me, but I don't know. Feeling it more, I feel like every moment in this movie felt like there was purpose regardless. So I don't know. I don't
Mm.
know. I should
Now,
rewatch
see,
this
for
to
me, what
even
I think it
confirm that.
is
But
like I think every scene is like all of them are like solid. They all serve their point really well. It's just that like comparatively, the all the Robin Williams bits, those are the bits I think are really really good. So like I think
yeah, I
comparatively,
think
Mm.
some of
that's
that
it. I
stuff
was gonna
isn't
bring that up in some
as
way, like
solid.
how I thought
But
I was like, I
mm,
almost wanted more scenes like that. But then again, I still do love the scenes with the other characters, so I can understand why that might not be an issue for someone else. So yeah, that might just
yeah,
be
yeah.
more of a personal thing,
Mhm.
and that could change on rewatch. I literally did just see this movie, so yeah.
Mm. I
Mm,
noticed that a little bit on my rewatch, like because I'm so invested in these two characters and their relationship growing and just the back and forth between them and how it starts off essentially as like a power struggle, like one person wants more power over the other, but then over time, like they both kind of start letting their guard down and they grow closer to each other. It's a really interesting arc, and so to cut away from that, it's still great stuff, but you're kind of just thinking like, oh, that was
Yeah, I think
really.
that's it almost. That's like, I don't know. It's not a huge issue, but yeah, you get so wor- like immersed into the relationship that you almost wish there was more, even though it doesn't really subtract much from the movie itself. And the other scenes still don't come off as filler regardless, as they add to Will's character. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like
Mm,
something I felt a bit, and it's probably the
Mm.
closest thing I have to a mild issue with the movie. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I get you. I think my favorite scene, ignoring the Robin Williams bits, is apologies you guys mentioned this like before, but there's the bit at the construction site with
Yeah, we
Will and Ben
mentioned that,
Affleck's
but
character.
Mm.
I really, yeah, that's probably like my. I just think like it's a good way of showing their like differences in
hmm
worldview, a bit how they like both have that different sides of it there. But
yeah,
yeah,
despite yeah.
a very very solid stuff. It's funny how I was looking at the Wikipedia page now actually to see if there's any like development out there, because I like doing that sometimes to see if there's like anything. And it's funny how like a lot of like positive reviews I see this movie talk about mostly how down to earth and humid it is. But when you look at it, apparently tonally, it was originally going to be a lot more out there. The original like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck script, according to what it says here. So the script was completed in '94, and at first, it was written as a thriller about a young man in the rough and tumble streets of Boston who possesses a superior intelligence and is targeted by the government with heavy-handed recruitment. I don't know how
That
far that like
oh.
more heightened version got, but it sounds we were taking
Mm.
that like same thing about like Will's higher intelligence, yet taking it in like a weird, more supernatural direction. I don't know how good that movie would be, but it's
I
obviously
don't it would have been
way different from what
complete
actually
yeah,
It doesn't
happens.
completely different.
surprise me they kind of
Mm,
overhauled it in that sense because
yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like that would just
yeah,
make it feel like a less real story, I guess, because like
yeah.
I feel like if they just turned it like, oh wow, this guy is so fucking smart, and they really hammered that in, when it feels like the main conflict in this movie kind of arises with the main character attempts to do with his intelligence in terms of how he lives his life. And I feel like that type of movie would just focus on a, like you said, more supernatural aspect, which
mm.
Yeah.
might not be a bad movie. It would just definitely be completely different from this story.
See, it's less about that he's smart and more how that like separates him from everyone else and how that kind of pigeonholes him
Yeah.
into certain like
Mm.
situations, which I don't know. This other thing definitely doesn't seem as solid nearly, but yeah. Yeah. It's weird. This is one also on that note. It's so Matt Damon and Ben Affleck both wrote this together, but it's like one of their only like writing credits. And if you look at everything else they've like made, nothing seems to like quite don't match that in terms of like popularity nor like general liking. Like a lot of this other stuff. I both have 4 other credits. I guess they did a Ridley Scott movie a couple years ago. I never heard of this. Not all looks
Mm,
boring. Uh, eh, this isn't like the top 250. This one, I guess.
that's cool.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell this was a project they were definitely passionate about, and so it
Yeah,
might
yeah,
seem like some of the others might just
for
seem
sure.
like it's kind of like for hire gigs.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. For sure, for sure. Especially since it's barely anything. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think that's all I have to say about this movie.
I
Do you guys have
think we
anything
went
else to
pretty
say?
concise there. You got anything, Matt? If you got any quick notes, want to throw out there? All right.
Oh, I'd say all I really have left to add is that so I took an improv class in high school. Oh, no, wait, no,
Oh,
it wasn't improv. It was
okay.
public speaking. I public
Oh,
speaking,
okay.
and so one of the assignments was to do a monologue from just any piece of media, movie or show, and so I chose to do the NRA one.
Mm.
Or was it NRA? Or
Oh,
was it NSA? Where they ask Will like, why wouldn't you want to be part of the? Is it NSA? I think.
I think so.
Maybe. I
Yeah.
And then
don't
he just
really remember.
goes through this whole like, oh, so they give me this piece of code, I break it, but then
Oh yeah, that
it'll-
scene, yeah.
yeah,
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
mm,
When he's trying to get that
Hmm.
that job. That's cool. That's cool.
it was a
That's
pain to memorize.
yeah, probably.
I
It's
can
like one of the
imagine.
longest speeches in the movie. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, I think that's all we gotta say. I guess we'll get into our ratings. Um, I'm gonna give it a
Mhm.
high 8 out of 10 at the moment. Great ass movie right
Yeah, I
here.
would. I'd go similarly. Very, very solid stuff. Great performances, great direction, just great all around. Great like thematic stuff there too, as we spoke about. Love all that. I would love to rewatch this at some point. Yeah,
Hmm.
great movie. You should. I'll check it out. Um,
yeah. For me, it's definitely 10 out of 10, 5 star. I I wouldn't say I have like one favorite movie, but it's usually the one I say whenever people ask me what my favorite movie is. I usually have like a
yeah, that
few
makes sense.
in
Hmm.
mind. Mhm.
Yeah. And I get that because like when you have like top stuff, it's easy to decide what your like favorites like are in terms of like your top stuff, but just like narrowing it down is sometimes difficult. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
yeah,
that's a
I
good,
always struggle with that. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
relatable struggle. But
Overall, great movie. Now let's go. I guess we'll go into something with like
for
a very different tone, more of a comedic
Yeah.
joke right here that
sure. Yeah.
Matty B recommended once again.
Hmm.
What do you have to say about why you recommended us Kung Fu Hustle? Because I've never heard of this movie, never in my life. So I was
Anyway,
when you were like saying and telling me about this movie, I was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, this looks funny. So I was down to do it. So yeah, how'd you find out about this movie? What's your relationship with it?
So this was shown to me by a friend of mine. I was with a group of friends. We were all just looking for something. I think we were like browsing through Netflix, looking for something to watch. And then we get onto this movie, and then one of my friends is like, "Oh man, this movie is so stupid, man. It's so lame." And then another friend is like, "No, no, it's cool. It's awesome. I'll show it." And then we started watching it, and literally from the very opening scene, I was just like, "Yeah, I get it. It's silly, but that's also why I love it."
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, if you
yeah,
So
don't know, yeah, Kung Fu Hustle. It's a martial arts. Also, it's a martial arts movie, but it's also like a slapstick, goofy Abrams style comedy.
yeah, it's almost like a parody of martial arts in that way, just kind of
Hmm.
like poking fun at some of the stupid shit that happens. I guess
Yeah.
like with how goofy they play off something like this.
yeah.
So yeah, and I had a good time with it. I thought it was pretty funny. There's a lot of standout joke moments here.
Hmm.
Um Yeah, so the plot of this
Definitely,
movie,
definitely.
very epic right here. It follows just this guy. His name, what's his name? Singh. Yeah, okay. That's his name. I don't remember them saying his name in the movie, but that's what it says on Letterbox. But anyways, so basically he wants to be a part of this gang of terrorists called the Axe Gangsters. And he basically wants to join this gang, him and this other guy who isn't given a name either, him and his homie, I guess, and they want to join this gang. And then at the same time, like around this time, there's also this like village. It basically mostly takes place in this village, and it's kind of just. Now I think about it, there isn't really a lot of huge plot in this movie. It's just kind of like a bunch of stuff happening in between leading up to the climax of the movie in some way, which is pretty epic if I do say so myself. So what did you guys think of this?
I thought it was very fun. I was kind of in a similar position to you, Anthony, where like I think I had heard of it from somewhere else, but I forget like exactly where. And I remember when you were telling me like, all right, he picked these two movies, where I was like, oh, all right, good with one thing, yeah, all right, classic movie. Oh, this the fuck is that? So then I put it on this morning. I think this movie does what it sets out to do very well. This sort of like exaggerated, really stupid sort of parody lens of it. This like it goes like completely just all out with this like how exaggerated they make these sort of like kung fu type movies in that lens. And I had a really good time with it. It's short and sweet, get in out, and you get
Mm.
like a lot of really big like and out gag moments for me. I thought it was very fun overall. Had a delightful time this
Yeah.
one.
Um, if I was yeah, something very goofy. I guess the best way, we cover a lot of comedies on this podcast, a lot of parodies specifically, like we did Spaceballs a while back.
Yeah.
We did like that Weird Al musical thing, the Weird Al biopic thing. All that.
That's
We
why we're
cover a lot
called
of that.
Campy Cast. Like
Aha.
about campy
Yeah.
movies a
Mm.
lot of the
Even though
time.
we don't always
Yeah.
call talk about campy movies, but then again, maybe the real campiness is how you just can never predict what we do. You never can predict.
Yeah.
You never know what we're gonna do
The
next.
title doesn't entirely make sense, but we're gonna do change the podcast name. Nearly
Yeah, we
50
can't do
episodes
that
in.
anymore. Yeah,
Huh,
no way.
ridiculous.
Yeah, but regardless, um, I just it's just fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot
To
of
me, to me, this movie really feeds into a lot of my personal interest, like my sense of humor and what I like out of a lot of like comedic movies and shows. Because I'm a sucker for like when there's live action people just acting like cartoons. Like I mentioned,
yeah.
it was kind of like an Abrams style movie. Like it's one of the, like I love like Naked Gun. I love, you just mentioned Spaceballs.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
Like it's a lot of,
yeah.
and this because this movie really does operate on just a fully cartoon logic.
Yeah, and that's shown great through the
Yeah.
fucking visual effects, the fucking Looney Tunes running scenes with just
Oh yeah.
extreme. I feel like the CG in this movie definitely bad, but it's like bad in a charming way
Well,
that
that's
like
kind of
feels
like the whole.
intentional
It
and like
adds to the
adds to the
joke of it,
joke.
really.
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah,
it adds to the humor.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's used for comedic effect brilliantly, and I feel like it was obvious that the creators who were working on this movie just had a great time making this stupid ass movie. Like right off the bat, let's talk about a part of the opening where the main character and his buddy kind of like infiltrate this town and pretend to be a part of the main gang, and then it's like in this moment, it's kind of just showing they're basically pretending and they're just terrible at it, just trying to
Mm.
be. They think that these people are just like, instead of being an intimidating mob, they're just like they're just like, oh, they're so evil, and they're just like embracing this. And then we also get the iconic joke when he tries to like show his dominance by like saying all right, let me beat someone up, and then he just like points to random people, and then it turns out they're like incredible, just absolutely fucking ripped, or just insanely tall. And I feel like that's like
All
that. As
exaggerated. It's
soon
really
as I
really
got to
funny.
Mhm.
that scene, and I'm all
Like
like, oh, I know what this movie's gonna be. I know, I've
yeah,
seen the type of
how the
movie like this
exact type of
before.
movie it is right from the top.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
just
Very
right from
funny.
that scene, I could tell exactly what this movie was gonna be, and I was gonna have a good time. You also got the gang, the main gang, just doing these sick ass dances right off that opening of the movie. Like
Mhm.
the,
Yeah,
after they just like killed these guys, it's sick.
yeah.
It's sick right there. Very sets up the
I
also
think
sets
even
up the tone
like
of the movie
character
well.
design wise, it all communicates the tone really. Because the actual like Axe gang, that's like the main antagonist, like their whole like, it's just an inherently funny visual. These guys with like the giant like fancy ass suits, and they got these big ass hats, but they're also just carrying like goofy fucking cartoon axes around with them all the time. Just that contrast is really funny, even while like calling direct attention to like the joke, having them like all lined up like that, and like that when they're like terrorizing people. It's a really good like visual sense of it. I liked all that a
Yeah.
lot. Very fun.
I
Very
also
fun.
I also in general just like I like the characters of the landlord and the landlady, with the landlady just being this fucking lunatic who has a superpower where she could just yell so bad, so like loudly that it just absolutely like cracks windows and just destroys the place, and that's just like a weapon. And
Yeah.
yeah, also
Yeah,
some cool action.
the landlady was a huge standout, especially because she takes part in what is easily the crowning achievement of action cinema, which is the chase scene between Sing and the landlady, where they're
Exactly.
essentially they do the
Cinema right
Looney
there.
Tunes, uh, like legs spinning around.
Yeah, like I said at the start. Yeah, it's like that just it's great. It's great. And then one
Mhm.
of them just crashes into a sign and then comes back
Mhm.
in the next scene. That's
Yeah.
just it's just fun in
When they
that way.
jump in the air, they do little poses.
It's so goofy, but in the best way
Mhm.
possible. It all feels just it's just fun. Best way to put it.
Mhm.
Like best way to just summarize this movie is that it's just kind of like sharing a lot of the funny moments done here. Like one of my favorite ones is I love how incompetent the two like Sing and his buddy are. Like the scene where they're attempting to kill the landlady, and then like he just repeatedly stabs himself by accident.
Yeah, the knife scene, that was great.
That's amazing right there. And then there's just like and then there's just the scene where the landlady also just beats the everlasting shit out of her husband
Mhm.
in the most cartoonish way
Yeah.
possible. So, yeah,
E
a lot of great moments like that.
so stupid.
Yeah, even in spite of that, like yeah, it's definitely like a silly, campy movie with a lot of cheesy looking effects, but there's still a lot of really impressive choreography and
Action is great, like I
stunt
said.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like unironically really good. Like it's goofy because of the visuals, like you said, but not only does that add to the comedy, but it also doesn't like deviate from harming the actually pretty cool action scenes. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, definitely.
there's clearly a lot of effort put into the choreography, and
And
it's a
despite
cool
it all
action
being like
movie
funny,
despite
just
it
on
all.
a yeah, on that technical level, it's really cool too. You can like really tell, like especially with all the big sets and everything, it really
Mhm.
gets that like feel of that type of movie, right? Which is why when it goes absurd, it's really funny because like I talk about a lot of my favorite parody stuff, getting close to that style just makes it funnier when you go like completely stupid with it and just off the rails with it. Which this movie does very well. Like on a set level, it's very
Mhm.
well made. It's neat to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that setting of the village.
Yeah, it's
Now,
a
just
cool setting.
yeah, it's a nice little town, and like a lot of the characters you meet, like especially those three guys who like you kind of think are gonna be like they wipe out all the Axe Gang members at the beginning. Like yeah, like the tailor who's like
Hmm.
made fun of for being feminine. Like they're very
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they're very simple characters, but they're like that by design.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
this one little detail is there's this scene where one of the gangsters like is like just it ends goes into this like this one like store place, and then one of the secret kung fu warriors is like cowering in the corner, and then you think it's gonna end with that guy like with the person cowering being beat up, but it turns out no, he just froze the gangster member out the window. And
Mhm.
that's a funny subversion right there, and it's a good way to introduce that character. So I thought that was a really nice and funny detail.
Yeah, there are a lot of gags
Yeah.
like that. Like I don't know if there's like a term for this, but it's when like, and it's like going back to the cartoon logic thing. You see this in like cartoons as well, like during a fight where you think like one character is about to beat the crap out of another, like he has the upper hand,
Yeah,
and then rushes at him, and then immediately cuts to this them getting attacked.
yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
was funny. Um, I enjoy that epic music fight scene in the village where they get the two second best killers in the entire world to just have this
Hmm.
epic music battle against the kung fu warriors, and then yeah, and then it ends with the reveal that it turns out the lunch lady and her husband are also just like okay, not necessarily kung fu wars, they could just fight really well, and yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, like
exactly.
everyone in this
epic
village is just
twist.
like a skilled martial artist.
Yeah, I find
For
that
no apparent
hilarious.
reason, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
so funny.
yeah, I can't say personally it's one of my favorite comedies, but I definitely enjoyed myself while watching it. There was
Yeah.
just like a lot to love about it, just a lot of great moments and a lot of standout funny moments in general that stuck with me in that way. Yeah. Um, it's a solid little kung fu movie in that way.
What'd you
Um,
guys think of
Yeah.
the Toad Man
the
or whatever he was called?
oh
I don't know.
yeah, the Toad Man wasn't. Oh yeah, that. Yeah, what was it? His name was like yeah, I think he was like, oh yeah, he's the number one killer in the world. That
Mhm.
guy, he's in the. I thought it was funny. I thought that was funny, and then in general, that entire climax is just fucking
He
epic.
just bloats himself.
Yeah, bro,
Yeah.
just like absolutely, just like yeets himself in the air, like automatically using his epic frog powers, toad powers.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then it's just like,
It's funny they just looks like a generic old man, and then like when they actually need, but he just has these
yeah.
fucking stupid ass powers.
What's
It's
great
so
about
funny.
that is that it
Like,
reminded me of the Toad Man from Freaked, so that was funny.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. I don't know if you felt that same vibe too, Brian, but you know, the Toad Man for from Freaked gave me
oh,
the same vibe with the
I can
that
see that
movie.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
love Freak. Great comparison.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the climax is just great. I like. I
Mhm.
also like one of the small-ish running gags is that as a child, the main character was like scammed to get this like Buddhism kung fu book, and it was like I thought that was actually pretty funny. And
Mhm.
like that comes back near the end when he performs this epic move on the
Like it actually ends up working.
it somehow works.
Just makes a
that was
giant
funny.
hand indent in the floor.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous because of the CG, but it feels like that was definitely the vibe they were going for, so it comes off as hilarious intentionally, you know? Like, it's not like in
Yeah.
usual movies with terrible CG when it's like unintentional, like a lot of modern superhero movies. Now, this one is like, you know, the film's laughing with us, you know?
Mhm.
Clearly, that's what it's clearly trying to do in this case.
Yeah, because I
Um,
feel like with a lot of blockbusters today, like they don't really have an excuse, and it's something where, like you said, they want to be taken seriously, and
exactly.
so when you have these cheap looking effects, that aren't even like in this movie, like they're very obviously cheap. They're not meant to look
Yeah,
real.
they look stupid for a reason, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, granted, they're also not working with the biggest budget. I'm pretty sure.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it was like 10 million.
Was this movie released in theaters?
I believe so.
Um, hmm.
Did it do
Yeah, it
well?
looks cinematic,
Wonder.
like shot wise. It just effects are a little
Yeah, it did
purposely.
come out in like 2004, and like you said, probably wasn't dealing with the best budget, but regardless, they were able to
Mhm.
use that to make the film funnier. So,
Mhm.
thumbs up in that way. Big old thumbs
Yeah.
up. Yeah, it's clear everyone had a great time with this movie. Like, all the actors felt like they were having like a great time coming up with these loony kung fu scenarios and whatnot. You know, it's
Mhm.
it's very fun in that way. It kind of has that like it has this you could definitely tell another thing that further enhances like aspects of the kung fu parody is how it includes shit like the like we see this dramatic backstory of the main character of him as a kid, and then he just gets absolutely destroyed and literally pissed on by bullies. It's just kind of like poking fun and
Mhm.
parroting that typical action
Yeah.
kung fu backstory that's supposed to be dramatic, and then it just like, and then it comes back later with the girl with the lollipop, and I don't know, it's kind of funny in that way. Um, yeah, with that, like with the whole backstory with the main character and the lollipop, what do you guys think of that?
Mm. I love the
I
whole
really.
again, that's another one that's really sold by the visual. I love that. But it's so funny how they placed that like over dramatic emphasis on that. That big
Yeah,
like
like they tried to make it like
scene and
he
like
he
that's
was
like the
literally dying his blood, and then bro just drew a picture of a lollipop with his own blood.
yeah.
That was great.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
love how a lot of these, because in a way it is presented as if it's this like super serious movie, but that adds to the humor
exactly.
of it.
Exactly.
It's definitely trying to kind of poke fun at that, which is
Mm.
great in terms of doing a full-on kung fu parody in this case. And it feels like it
Exactly.
was
And plus a
definitely
lot of
handled
those like
by
mm,
people
and
who
plus a
like
lot of
definitely
those like
understood it
old
properly.
kung fu movies, if you go back to them, they're like obviously not a lot of them are like parody level, but they are like definitely like inherently absurd to just taking a lot of those elements and how this just dials it all up to like 11 with all the fights and the MacGuffins, take like important plot things and just making them really stupid. I think it fits really well with this. Very like it makes it great old time I had with this
Yeah,
one.
I had a
Once
Mm.
great
again.
time with this movie.
Yeah.
Um, I can't, like I said, I
Hmm.
can't say it's one of my favorite comedies personally. I just in general the whole like story and events, I definitely enjoyed them. I just don't see myself like dying to go back to them, but I can definitely understand why you enjoy this so much, Matt.
Mm.
So for that,
Yeah, you know, I understand.
yeah. Um, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this movie. I think I got most of like like the most standout moments when it comes to the cartoonish violence and whatnot of this movie that made it so fun. I did want to point out they said like the main number one killer guy's name is Beast, and they literally say the line
They call him
Mr.
Mr.
Beast
Beast.
in the movie, and I was like,
Mr.
hold up,
Beast.
That was
Mr.
great.
This movie
Oh my
predicted Mr.
god.
Beast. Holy
Oh,
shit. Yeah, I thought that
Yeah,
was
crazy.
he's
funny.
the main bad guy, Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was
They
funny.
predicted the future.
Yeah,
Crazy.
that's like the one last thing I wanted to mention because I thought that was funny. But yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. You guys have anything else to say?
I got anything, Matt? I think I'm
That's
pretty
about all I
about
got.
them.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess
All
we'll get
right.
to our ratings.
Alrighty
I'm
then.
going to give this a
Yeah.
solid 7 out of 10. Pretty great, pretty solid.
That's fair. I'd give it rough and now like low 8, high 7 for me. Not a preferred overt comedy, but I thought it was really fun. And like we all talked about, like the style and how much it just commits to its own silliness. That's the type of stuff I really appreciate in movies like this. So it's like, yeah, big fan all around. Lovely, lovely movie.
Yeah, I think last I checked, I had it rated as like a 5-star on Letterboxd. Even though I think first time I watched it, it was like a 4-star, and then
Mm.
I showed it to a friend of a friend of ours I showed it to, and honestly, it was just seeing her reaction to it was also just a lot of fun. Just added to it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Good film
I
to
can
show to
imagine.
your
A
friends
great
in that
movie.
case.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. A great watch party movie. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I guess that's about it. Yeah, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Campy
Yeah.
Cast. No, this one is like pretty shorter, one of our shorter episodes we've had in a while, but regardless, you got a
Yeah.
4 hour episode
Little
already.
treat.
Yeah, we gotta lay
Yeah,
back every
definitely.
now and again. And regardless, this was
Yeah.
still fun. It was fun having you on,
Yeah,
Matt.
our next couple
Yeah.
episodes. Stay tuned next coming weeks. We got a
Yeah.
bunch of great stuff coming up.
First
And
time we
thank you,
had like
Matty B.
two people with the same name on the podcast. Right,
That is
Brian?
Mm.
true. That is true. That what a coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much appreciated coming on the show. We haven't had like a new guest in a while. I'm not personally familiar with in a bit. So that was neat. Neat change of pace. You certainly recommended
Mhm.
quite the variety of films. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no
No
problem.
problem. The pleasure is ours.
Yeah.
Pleasure is ours.
Thank you for tuning in for another
Thank
episode
you all for
again.
watching.
And yeah,
Yeah.
bye-bye.